Let me tell you something that not enough people are saying out loud. In a world obsessed with youth, we've forgotten to appreciate the kind of allure that only comes with time, the kind that doesn't fade with age but deepens. I'm not talking about surface-level beauty. I'm talking about real, magnetic, deeply rooted attractiveness, the kind that turns heads and holds hearts. You radiate confidence without needing validation. There's a presence about you that walks into a room before you even say a word. You're not trying to be noticed, but people notice you anyway. That's the quiet power of a woman who knows her worth. You've lived, you've learned, and somewhere along the way, you stopped looking for the world to give you permission to feel good about yourself. You no longer ask, do they like me? Instead, you ask, do I even like them ? That switch in mindset changes everything. When a woman no longer needs to be told she's beautiful to believe it, when she doesn't depend on compliments to feel enough, that's when she becomes magnetic. People are drawn to her not because she's loud, not because she's trying to prove anything, but because her energy is calm, grounded, and real. Confidence, when it's real, doesn't come from being the most youthful or having the most attention. It comes from self-respect. It comes from making peace with who you are. This kind of confidence doesn't show up overnight. It's earned. It's the result of heartbreaks survived, lessons learned the hard way, and realizing that even at your most uncertain, you were still worthy. You've stopped putting your value in how much someone texts you back, or how many likes you get, or whether someone thinks you're too much or not enough. You've stopped apologizing for taking up space, and that shift is powerful. You no longer try to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. You've outgrown the need to be liked by everyone because you've learned that being authentic is far more fulfilling than being approved of. Your confidence doesn't scream, it doesn't have to. It's quiet, self-assured, and deeply rooted in who you are. It's in the way you walk, the way you listen, the way you speak with intention. You know that attention is easy to get, but respect is something else entirely. And you carry yourself in a way that invites respect. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. People feel that when they're around you. They notice the way you hold your own in conversations, the way you don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard. And maybe the most beautiful part of it all, you don't compete, you don't compare, you're not trying to be better than. You're focused on being fully yourself, and that, more than anything, is what makes you captivating. You set boundaries with grace and strength. You no longer feel guilty for saying no to things that drain your energy. You've realized that your peace, your time, your values, they matter, and you protect them not with anger, not with walls, but with clarity and self-respect. You've outgrown the phase where you overextended yourself just to be liked or accepted. You don't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or inconsistency because you know that your standards aren't too high. They're just a reflection of how far you've come. There's a certain elegance in the way you handle what you will and won't accept. You don't argue to be understood anymore. You calmly express what works for you, and if someone isn't aligned, you let them go not out of bitterness, but because you value alignment over attachment. This kind of boundary setting isn't about being harsh, it's about being clear. It's not about pushing people away, it's about letting the right people in. You've learned that love isn't proven by how much you're willing to bend or break yourself. It's shown in how much someone respects your boundaries without needing you to justify them. You've come to understand that the right person will never make you feel bad for having limits. In fact, they'll admire them because those limits are rooted in self-worth. And that self Worth is something you've earned through experiences that taught you to stop betraying yourself just to maintain connection. You've become someone who can hold space for others while still honoring yourself. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can be understanding without allowing chaos. You don't try to fix people anymore, especially at the cost of your own well-being. You no longer see boundary setting as selfish. You see it as self-love. You recognize that you teach people how to treat you, not through your words, but through your actions and consistency. And here's what makes you even more powerful. You don't over-explain. You don't feel the need to defend every decision. You've stepped into a space where peace is more important than approval. You'd rather disappoint someone else than abandon yourself. And that shift in priorities has made you stronger, more centered, and undeniably attractive. People feel safe around you because you are clear. There's no guessing, no mixed signals, no resentment bubbling under the surface. You say what you mean, and you follow through. That kind of emotional maturity creates real intimacy, not chaos. You are not reactive, you're responsive. You don't make decisions out of fear, but from a grounded place of knowing who you are and what you need. You own your story, flaws, failures, and all. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who no longer runs from her past. You don't pretend to have had a perfect life, a flawless record, or an easy journey. You've stopped hiding the moments that broke you, embarrassed you, or made you question your worth. Instead, you've chosen to embrace them, because you understand now that those moments shaped the woman you are. They gave you depth, they gave you wisdom, they gave you compassion. You've stopped editing yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You've let go of the shame that used to make you feel like you needed to perform or wear a mask. You speak your truth, not because it's easy, but because it's real. And people feel that authenticity. It's disarming, it's magnetic. You don't pretend to be untouched by life. You show that you've been touched by it deeply and came out stronger. When you talk about your past, you don't do it to seek sympathy. You do it to show strength. You're not afraid of vulnerability anymore. You understand that being real is not weakness, it's courage. It's the courage to say, this is what I've been through. This is what I've learned, and this is who I am because of it. That kind of openness builds trust. It draws people in, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're willing to be seen. You've stopped letting your past define you, but you've also stopped pretending it didn't happen. You've integrated it. You've made peace with the parts of yourself that used to feel unworthy, and in doing so, you've become whole. You no longer cringe at your mistakes, you mine them for meaning. You don't deny your emotional scars, you wear them with quiet pride, because they're proof you survived. Owning your story also means you're no longer trying to rewrite it to make others comfortable. You've realized that your journey isn't for everyone to approve of. Some people will misunderstand you, judge you, or walk away, and that's okay. You're not here to please the crowd. You're here to live in truth, and truth is beautiful even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. You've stopped comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. You know that everyone is fighting their own battles, but not everyone is honest about it. And that's what makes you different. You don't need to present perfection to feel worthy of love or admiration. You show up with your imperfections, and that's what makes you unforgettable. You're not trying to erase your past. You're using it as a foundation to build the future you actually want. Every chapter of your story matters, even the ones you once wished you could rip out. You've learned how to turn your pain into power, your regret into growth, and your shame into self-acceptance. You don't chase attention, you attract respect. There's a quiet difference in the way you move through the world now. You're not looking around the room to see who notices you. You've stopped needing the validation that comes from constant compliments or approval. Instead, you've cultivated a presence that earns admiration not because of what you do to get it, but because of who you are when you're not trying. You've realized that being seen isn't the goal, being respected is. Your value no longer comes from how many eyes are on you, but from the way people feel when they're around you. You're not performing, you're not competing, you're just showing up as your full, unapologetic self, and that kind of energy is rare. You don't walk into a room wondering how to impress everyone. You walk in knowing your worth isn't up for negotiation. That kind of self-assurance draws people in without effort. You've outgrown the games and the desperate need for validation that once seemed so important. You don't need to post every detail of your life to feel significant. You're not interested in superficial attention because you know how fleeting and hollow it is. You want real connection. You want to be respected for your mind, your standards, your energy, not just your appearance or charm. And that shift shows in every interaction. The kind of woman you've become is the kind who knows her time is valuable. You don't give it to just anyone who shows interest. You've become selective, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You know what you bring to the table. You understand that your energy is not for everyone, and that's not a problem, that's a filter. You no longer chase people to see your value. You've learned that those who recognize it without being convinced are the ones worth keeping close. This isn't about being cold or distant. You're warm, open, and kind, but you're not available to everything and everyone. There's a boundary in place now, one that says, if you want access to me, it has to be earned. And because of that, people treat you differently. They show up with more effort, more honesty, more consistency. You don't demand respect, you embody it, and people either rise to meet you or remove themselves, which only creates more space for those who truly belong in your life. You've stopped needing the loud kind of attention, the one that disappears the moment someone new walks in the room. You've embraced the kind of respect that lingers, that grows, that's built slowly over time. It's in the way someone listens to you, the way they speak to you, the way they remember the little things because they were actually paying attention. You attract that because you've set the tone. You've shown others how you expect to be treated by the way you treat yourself. You have emotional depth that invites real connection. There's something about the way you listen, the way you respond, the way you hold space for others that goes far beyond surface-level interaction. You've spent years understanding yourself, navigating heartbreak, and sitting with your own feelings long enough to develop a kind of empathy that can't be faked. You don't shy away from vulnerability anymore. You've learned that being emotionally available doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. And that realness is rare. You're not afraid of emotional conversations because you know they're the gateway to intimacy. You ask the questions that matter. You don't dance around what you feel. You speak from the heart, and you invite others to do the same. People feel safe around you, not because you promise them perfection, but because you give them permission to be human. That kind of emotional safety is a magnet. It's what makes someone want to stay, to go deeper, to trust you with the things they don't share with anyone else. You're not interested in shallow connections. Small talk doesn't excite you. You want to know what keeps someone up at night, what drives them, what makes their heart race or their voice tremble. You want connection that feels like truth, like home, like being seen, and you're willing to offer that first. You lead with honesty. You've become someone who can hold space for joy and pain at the same time. You're not scared of someone else's emotions because you've faced your own. You've sat in the dark corners of your soul and made peace with them. That emotional depth also means you're more in tune with others. You pick up on unspoken signals, the energy in a room, the subtle shifts in someone's tone. You don't need everything to be spelled out. You feel things. You notice things, and because of that, people feel deeply understood around you. It's not just about words, it's about presence. It's about showing up in a way that says, I see you, I hear you, you matter. But that doesn't mean you carry everyone else's emotions. You've learned the difference between empathy and self-abandonment. You know how to care without losing yourself. You've developed the emotional intelligence to hold boundaries, to speak the truth with love, and to walk away from people who mistake your compassion for weakness. Your emotional depth doesn't make you easy to manipulate. It makes you impossible to fool. You see through pretenses, through masks, through games, and you choose honesty every time. The richness of your emotional world is what makes connection with you unforgettable. You don't offer people a highlight reel. You offer them the full picture, the highs, the lows, the lessons, the growth. You don't sugarcoat your experiences. You offer truth with grace, vulnerability with strength, and presence with intention. You embrace your femininity without apology. You've reached a place in your life where you no longer feel the need to downplay who you are to make others comfortable. You've stopped shrinking your softness to seem stronger, and you've let go of the idea that femininity is weakness. You understand that being feminine in your energy, your expression, your emotions, your sensuality is not something to hide, but something to honor. It's a strength that lives in your ability to be both powerful and gentle, assertive and nurturing, direct and deeply compassionate. You've learned that real femininity doesn't mean conforming to society's outdated standards. It means standing in your authenticity. Sometimes that looks like elegance, warmth, and empathy. Other times it looks like fierce independence, honesty, and holding the line when someone crosses it. You don't box yourself into labels. You allow your femininity to be fluid, expressive, and grounded in who you really are, not who you think the world wants you to be. You no longer feel the need to be low maintenance, just to be accepted. You take care of yourself in ways that feel good to you. Whether that means dressing up, speaking softly, crying when you're moved, or commanding a room with your quiet confidence, it all comes from within. You don't perform femininity. You embody it in a way that is authentic and effortless, because it's no longer for show, it's for you. And that's what makes it magnetic. You're not trying to fit into someone else's idea of a desirable woman. You've defined it for yourself. You've stopped trying to be not like other women, as if that were some kind of compliment. You now celebrate other women and celebrate yourself at the same time. There's no longer a competition in your mind between strength and softness. They both live inside you, and you know when to lead with each. You don't apologize for your emotional intelligence. You don't dim your light to avoid being too much. You've embraced the truth that your presence, your intuition, your ability to connect, your sensuality, your rhythm, these are sacred, not shameful. And in that embrace, you've become deeply attractive, not just to others, but to yourself. You've reclaimed parts of yourself that were once silenced or judged, and now you wear them with pride. You know how to receive without guilt. You know how to rest without seeing it as laziness. You know how to nurture without losing yourself. You understand that your softness doesn't take away from your strength, it enhances it. You move through the world with a kind of grace that's unforced and real. You don't fight to prove your worth. You radiate it by being completely at home in your skin. You've tapped into the quiet, steady power of a woman who knows who she is, and who no longer feels the need to apologize for any part of her.